chapters concerning Joseph. So starting from Genesis 35, I believe, or 36, up to the last chapter of Genesis. But we're only going to read a few verses. Genesis 39 verse 2. Sige po, tayo. So let's read verse 2 and verse 3 of chapter 39, and then verse 21, and then verse 23. Genesis 39 verse 2, ready now. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. Verse 3, and his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. Talon tayo sa verse 21, but the Lord was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And then last verse 23, the keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. And that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. So we see all these verses. Naalala ko po kasi what was put in my heart is when Pastor told me yung boy ni Joseph, palaging nandun yung sinasabing the Lord was with Joseph, the Lord was with him. Kahit saan siya napunta siya sa prison, napunta siya sa, napag-diskitaan siya ng mga kapatid niya, napunta siya sa mataas na posisyon, the Lord was always with Joseph. So it's not Joseph, it's the Lord who is with him. Kasi parang tinitingnan natin, si Joseph, mighty man, holy, pero ang katotohanan talaga yung Panginoon na nasa kanya. We are going to study about the life of Joseph. We see here things that picture Joseph. Puro letter F siya dito sa lesson. Number 1, the favored son. We know that Joseph is favored by his father, Jacob. But let's read Genesis 37. And ako na lang magbabasa, tingnan na lang kung namatay yung Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger in the land of Canaan. These are generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, sons of Zilpah, and with his father's wife. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. So si Joseph, nagustuhan siya na tatay niya kasi hindi naman sa sumbongero talaga, pero talagang pasaway yung mga kapatid niya. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. We see here that Jacob really loved Joseph. Unang-una, syempre, because he is the son of Rachel, yung talagang true love ni Jacob. Kasi yung mga iba na yun, hindi talaga niya pinlano, kumbaga na maging asawa. Syempre, hindi pa para pumasok tayo dun sa bakit ang dami nilang asawa ng Old Testament. Pero ang talagang mahal ni Jacob si Rachel. At nung pinanganak na si Joseph, talagang love na love niya. He's the favored son. We see the dream of Joseph here. And he said unto them, Here I pray you this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, so verse 7, we were binding sheep in the field, and lo, my sheep arose and also stood upright. And behold, your sheep stood round about and made obeisance to my sheep. His brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hastened him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. Sinabi niya dito sa kanyang tatay, sa verse number 10, And his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him. But his father observed the same. We see in verse number 11, kasi parang sa normal na mga tao, especially a believer, nakakaingit yung ganon. Yung dream, kasi siyempre before, yung dream ginagamit talaga ng Panginoon para mag-ano sa mga tao. Nowadays, hindi na. So, nainggit yung mga kapatid niya, pero yung tatay, inobserbahan niya lang muna. Kasi malay ba natin, tsaka mahal siya ng tatay niya. Nakakaano kaya yun? Parang sa panaginip ko, luluhod kayo lahat sa akin. O yung presidente, luluhod sa akin. Di ba parang nakakabastos, parang ang taas naman nito, parang ganun. Pero yung tatay niya, mahal siya, at saka observe lang ba, hindi siya nagalit kay Joseph. So number 1 is, Joseph is the favored son. Nung nawala rin siya, makikita natin sa verse 33. And he knew it and said, It is my son's coat, an evil beast that devoured me. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. Mahal na mahal siya ng tatay niya. talaga nung nagalitaan na namatay siya, nag-mourn agad yung tatay niya at lungkot na lungkot sa pagkawala ng kanyang anak. So that's number 1, the favorite son. Number 2, Joseph, the faithful steward. This is another chapter of the life of Joseph. In chapter 13, we will see here his service, chapter 39. So yun na nga na pagka tatalon muna tayo mamaya mapupuntahan natin yung lesson about his brothers selling him to the merchants. But now we'll go to the faithful steward in chapter 39. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him of the hands of the Israelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. We see the faithful steward, Joseph, his service, pinagkatiwalaan siya ng kanyang master. Biruin mo, alipin lang siya, binili lang siya. So usually kapag ka-alipin, syempre before, wala naman yung kaalaman kasi alipin lang. Magbubunas lang yan ng sahig, or magbubuhat na kung ano man na papabuhat ng master niya, or magpapaypay. Pero dito, ginawa siyang overseer ng lahat ng kagamitan ng kanyang master. So manager siya. From slavery, naging manager agad, nagkatrabaho agad kasi nga sa faithfulness ni Joseph. You see his self-control also as faithful steward. Now, hindi lang ng kanyang master, as faithful steward kasi nakikita siya ng Diyos. His self-control, makikita natin dito. And it came to pass when she, so verse 13, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in Hebrew unto us to mock us, and he came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. So sa madaling salita, pinagbintangan siya, pero ang katotohanan niya, hindi siya kumagat sa tukso. Kasi because of his self-control. Now, we know that Joseph, he's ano na dito, malaki na siya dito, hindi na siya yung batang maliit na nakikita natin sa mga storybooks. Joseph here is maybe a teenager or ano na siya, grown up na siya, mature na siya. Kaya, nung tinetempt siya ng asawa ni Pharaoh, which is, sabi niya iba, hindi naman talaga ani Potiphar, hindi pangit yun kasi mayaman to si Potiphar. Pero, it controlled si Joseph. Talagang sabi niya, but he refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath commuted all that he had in my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? So he counted that not only sin to his master, but sin against God. So Joseph controlled himself, and for that he is thrown to prison. But we see that also kasi alam na natin yung story, knowing his whole story, it is a blessing for him. So Joseph, the favored son. Next, Joseph, the faithful steward. Number 3, Joseph, the forgotten servant. And chapter number 40, Joseph finds himself in the same cell with Pharaoh's butler and baker who were also in prison. So, yun na nga, to cut the long story short, Joseph was accused of rape by Potiphar's wife, and then Joseph was thrown into prison. Tapos meron nangako sa kanya kasi nanaginip na naman yung nanaginip yung mga tao, yung baker tsaka yung butler, and hindi sila mapakali sa panaginip nila. And Joseph was there. And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king, in chapter 40, of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against 2 of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in the ward in the house of the captain of the guard and in prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued the season in war. And they dreamed the dream, both of them, each man his dream one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in prison. So Joseph came in to them in the morning and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. So Yun na nga, yung dream nila na pinaliwanag ni Joseph, sabi niya dun sa baker, mamamatay ka. Paglabas mo ng prison, sabi naman niya dun sa butler, paglabas mo ng prison, mabibigyan ka ng tsansa ni Pharaoh. And then, sabi nito, yet, sa number 23, yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. So, instead na maalala ni butler, instead of remembering the one who interpreted his dream, because they made a deal. Sabi ni Joseph, sana maalala mo ako pagkalabas mo dyan sa kulungan, kasi siya ngayon nag-interpret ng dream ng butler. Pero nalimutan na siya ng butler. Yes, malaya na ako, so wala na. Nakalimutan na itong si Joseph. And Joseph served in the prison many days. Now we see, hindi siya naging alipin dito sa prison. Joseph was also entrusted with work here in the prison cell. So ibig sabihin talaga mapapagkakatiwalaan si Joseph dito pa rin sa prison nung pumunta siya. The Lord was with him. Kasi napapagkatiwalaan siya doon po sa prison cell. So he's a forgotten servant. Yun na yun talaga, yun lang yun. About Joseph being forgotten by the butler when he promised to help him get out of prison. Next, Joseph, the famed statesman. Ano yung famed statesman dito? Ginawa lang nila para puro F. So, kilala na statesman. Bakit? Because the revelation of Joseph was published throughout all Egypt. Why? So, this is the time when Pharaoh had a dream. In chapter number 41, na naginip si Pharaoh, there was 7 healthy cows. And then after that, there were 7 unhealthy cows. And then they ate the 7 healthy cows. And then wala rin nangyari din sa dream niya, parang mapayat pa din kahit nakinain na yung mga healthy cows. Tapos nanaginip din siya ng 7 corn, ma-healthy na corn na may bunga. Pagkatapos nun, meron naman 7 na tuyot na corn. Tapos walang bunga pagkatapos nun. So, sabi ni Joseph, these 2 dreams are one, sabi niya kay Pharaoh. Doon lang siya naalala ng butler kasi na naginip yung Pharaoh. Sabi ni Pharaoh, wala kahit sino man, magicians, scholars, any wise man in Egypt that can interpret the Pharaoh's dream. Why? Because they're stupid? No, they're not stupid, matatalino yung mga tao nun. But because the Lord was with Joseph, He made that to happen. That these people would not understand anything about the Pharaoh's dream except Joseph, because that is the Lord's perfect plan. Not Joseph being so good, but God's perfect plan for Joseph. So yun na nga, Joseph explained, the butler remembered Joseph can interpret dreams. So he said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, there's a man in the prison cell that was with me who interpreted my dream. Maybe he can help you. And then they called on to Joseph, and then they shaved Joseph's head para humarap kay Pharaoh. Nilinis siya, tapos humarap na siya kay Pharaoh, and then he interpreted Pharaoh's dream. About 7 years of plenty. 7 years na magbubunga, 7 years na masaganang Egypt. And then after that, 7 years of famine. Nagtuyot, wala silang kakainin. So, isang delikatong sitwasyon. We know that leaders are appointed by God. And as Pharaoh, he is also appointed by God to rule Egypt. It's not only, syempre, pastors, teachers, and also the government leaders are appointed by the Lord. We believe that because it's written in the Word of God. That's why we respect them. Now, why did God give that to Pharaoh, that dream? So that the Lord can bless Joseph, and also to save the people of Egypt from 7 years of famine. Imagine all of the people in Egypt are all going to die. They're also God's creation. That's why God loves them too. So the revelation of Joseph, the elevation of Joseph as a famed statesman, we see Joseph from slavery, and then after slavery, he became his master's manager, steward, and then after that, he became steward in the prison cell. Still a good position inside the cell. And then after that, he became, and it's verse 45 na chapter number 41, and Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paaneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, and Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Binigyan na ni Pharaoh si Joseph ng kanyang reign din, at saka ginawa siyang prime minister of Egypt. And when we say prime minister, napakabata pa ni Joseph nitong time na to. I believe he is in his mid-30s siya yung naging prime minister ng Egypt. Why? Because he's so smart? Because he can interpret dreams? No, because the Lord was with him. The famed statesman. And then next, Joseph, the forgiving saint. Mapagpatawad, saint. So, ibig sabihin, ligtas. Kagaya natin, saint. Genesis 45. So, it came to pass na si Joseph nga ay minister na ng Egypt. Now, he ruled the people so that the 7 years of gathering successful, natago na, the food were stored, it was preserved, and now the 7 years of famine came. So it's not only in Egypt, also the countries there around Egypt also experienced the sore famine that they cannot eat. Wala na silang makain. Even Jacob and Joseph's brothers, Jacob and his sons. That's why pumunta yung mga kapatid ni Joseph doon sa, alam na natin yung story, pumunta kay Joseph, yung mga kapatid niya, not knowing that it's his brother. So what happened here? So the brothers went to Egypt to get food, to get bread. Now what happened here is Joseph already knew them. It is in chapter number 43. And famine was sore in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the corn which they had brought out of Egypt, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Judah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. Thou wilt send our brother. Tapos na pala yung ano nito. Pinabalik na sila nito. Punta tayo muna sa chapter number 42. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look one upon another? Kaya nagtitinginan sa isa't isa, wala naman tayo makakain na, mamatay na tayo. They're all going to die of hunger. And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. It's not a coincidence, God's perfect plan. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy corn in Egypt. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, you see here Jacob's love for his two sons, Joseph and Benjamin. Pinaiwan ni Jacob ang kanyang bunso, si Benjamin, kasi anak din to nila siya. And of course, love niya to, bunso niya to eh. Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Jacob sent that with his brethren. For he said, Lest peradventure mischief befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land, and it was that sold to all people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. I believe that is already the prophecy that Joseph dreamed before. Naglumuhod sa kanya yung mga kapatid niya, yung stalk of corn na lumuhod dun sa kanyang dream. Ito na yun. Agad-agad yung dream nangyari na. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them, and spake roughly unto them, and he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan to buy food. Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew him, not him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land, ye are come. So, syempre, as human as Joseph is, of course, hindi naman siya okay agad sa mga kapatid. Yo, I missed you, brothers. Hindi, yun yung nagbenta sa kanya, yun yung bumulpi sa kanya, yun yung nag-ano sa kanya, nang-api sa kanya. So talagang parang, bakit nandito itong mga to? Siyempre, he speak roughly to them, and also, hindi niya pinakilala muna yung sarili niya. But, we can see here, talo na tayo sa chapter number 43. So, pinabalik sila ni Joseph kasi ang sabi nila, meron kaming isang kapatid at saka tatay doon na naiwan ko sa amin, kailangan namin ng pagkain. So, sa movie, hindi kilala ni Joseph si Benjamin, pero sa Bible, kilala niya yan. Pinanganak na si Benjamin bago pa, pinanganak si Benjamin kasi namatay na si Rachel, yung kanyang nanay. So, kilala ni Joseph yung kanyang bunsong kapatid, si Benjamin. Gusto niyang makita eh. Sabi niya dito sa chapter number 43, ito na yun, nung si Benjamin hinihiling ng kanyang mga kapatid, when his brothers were asking Jacob, please send with us Benjamin so we can go and get food from the land of Egypt. But Jacob doesn't want Benjamin to be with them because Jacob know in his heart that something might happen to Benjamin. Yun nga, hindi na nga nabigyan ng pagkain ng mga kapatid. So papasamahin pa si Benjamin, di ba? Kapamatay nga yung anak niya. But Judah here, and Judah said unto Israel, his father, send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him, of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee, and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. So we had lingered, surely now we had returned this second time. O sabi niya, ako masisihin mo pag namatay si Benjamin, gagawin ko yung lahat para mabalik sa iyo si Benjamin. Kailangan na namin pumunta doon because the governor required. So yun na nga, going forward, Benjamin went with them, and then Joseph saw Benjamin. So let's jump to chapter number 45. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, because every man to go out from me. Cause every man to go out from me. Palabasin niyo muna yung mga tao. And there stood no man with him while Joseph made himself known unto his brethren. Siyempre nakita niya na yung mga kapatid niya, pinakain niya, tapos ginawa niya pa ng eksena, naglagay siya ng yung gamit niya, nilagay niya dun sa sack na lalagyan na ng pagkain ni Benjamin. Para mapagbintangan na si Benjamin, nagnakaw. So pwede siyang ipapatay. Hindi para patayin. Ewan ko kung anong tumatakbo sa utak ni Joseph this time. But one thing is for sure, sinadya niya yung nilagay niya yung gamit niya para mapagbintangan si Benjamin. Tapos nung napagbintangan si Benjamin, sabi ng mga kapatid niya, ano nangyari sa atin? Pinarusahan tayo ng Diyos sa ginawa natin dati. Doon kay Joseph, naalala ng mga kapatid nila yung ginawa nila ng pagbenta kay Joseph, tapos pag sinungaling sa tatay nila, they lied to Joseph's father, Jacob, that he's been killed by an animal. Now, they know in their hearts that they were wrong and they feel sorry for it. I don't know if they repented here, but yun yung totoo, nalungkot sila, alam nila, pinarusahan sila ng Panginoon sa kanilang ginawa. Now, Joseph here, you can see Joseph, for his forgiving spirit. Now therefore be not grieved nor angry with yourselves. In verse number 5, that ye sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life. We see here that everything that happened to Joseph, he considered God's plan for not only for him, but for the people, for all the people that he is with. So yung family niya, and also the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan, para ma-preserve nga yung life. God also is the one who gave him wisdom. We see here, instead of Joseph, of course, blaming them. Bakit nyo kasi ako binenta? Bakit nyo kasi ako binugbog? Pwede naman ako maging maayos na lang na mabuhay. Ganito, ganyan. But everything, even the bad things that happened to him, he gave God the glory. And then of course, he forgave his brothers. Naiyak siya. At syempre, sabi niya dun sa mga kapatid niya, papuntahin niyo na rin dito na tayo tumira sa Egypt. Yung tatay natin, si Jacob. So you see here, God blessed him. Joseph had 2 sons. We see, at dito na pala yun, sa fruitful. So tapos na yung forgiving saint. Next is the fruitful shade tree. Nakalagay dito. Shade ba? Shade. Kasi binigyan sila ng prophecy sa chapter number 49, verse 22. This is Jacob giving blessing his children. At sa verse 22, sabay natin basahin. Ready now. Joseph is a fruitful bow. Chapter 49, verse 22. Ready now. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. Okay, stop na po tayo doon. Ang bow po, sinearch ko sa dictionary, ano ba yung bow? Ito po ay main branch ng isang tree. So, given that verse, he's also now like the Lord Jesus Christ. Yung picture ba, he is a type of Christ. Sabi dito si Joseph daw ay yung bow, yung main branch ng tree. At marami siyang mga branches, mga sanga. Sinabi ng Panginoon, I am the vine, ye are the branches. sa John chapter 15, verse number 5. He is also a type of Christ here. Bakit? Kasi nabibless yung mga tao through Him, ibig sabihin. So, siya yung main branch, yung mga small branches, nabibigyan ng nutrients through Him. Same din sa kanyang family at saka dun sa mga tao na nakapaligid sa Kanya. When you're blessed by the Lord, we know that hindi lang tayo yung nabibless din yung mga tao sa paligid natin. And syempre, hindi naman natin mapipigilan. Meron din magagalit sa atin, meron din na magagawa ng masama sa atin bilang mga tao. Pero, hindi siya mananatili sa buhay mo na forever ka nang may kaaway o forever ka nang masama ang loob mo because you know you're going to be blessed by the Lord. Just like what happened to Joseph here. He has 2 inheritance times 2. Sa kanya napunta yung inheritance ng panganay. Pagka sa Israel, ang inheritance to the children, double portion to the eldest. But si Joseph ang nag-breadwinner sa kanila, binless siya ng kanyang tatay, yun sa 2 anak. So, yung tribes ng Israel ngayon, naging 12 tribes, yung 2 doon, kay Joseph yun. Si Ephraim at saka si Manasseh, yung kanyang mga anak. So, naging doble yung portion niya kasi nga binless siya ng Panginoon. The fruitful shade tree, ibig sabihin, source of blessing. So, si Joseph, hindi siya yung main source, of course, it's God, but as type lang ba, illustration, he's like a main branch that shade also nagbibigay ng blessing sa kanyang mga nasasakupan. Now, Joseph, the favored son, the faithful steward, forgotten servant, famed statesman, forgiving saint, fruitful shade tree, and then lastly, Joseph, the foreshadow of the Savior. So we see here Joseph as a type of Christ. How? Joseph is beloved by his father, as Jesus is also beloved by his father. We know about that, of course, na mahal siya ng tatay niya. Pero parang kagaya sa Panginoong Jesus daw yung nakalagay dito, beloved by their father sa Matthew 3 verse 17. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." Kagaya din no, pagmamahal din kay Joseph ng kanyang tatay. Regarded themselves as shepherds. Parehas ng Panginoong Jesus. So Joseph here is a type of Christ na kagaya din ng Panginoon, na shepherd. Regarded themselves as shepherds. Next, sent by their father to their brethren. So, sinend out ng tatay sa kanyang brethren sa chapter 37 ng Genesis. Tignan lang natin yung mga verses para makita natin yung pagkakaparehas. 37 verse 13 to 14. And Israel said unto Joseph, Israel, that's Jacob, "Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send thee unto them." And he said to him, "Here am I." O parang isasend kita, tas here am I. Parang nga sa Panginoon, yung sa John chapter 1 verse 11, "Came unto his own, and his own received him not." So, given these verses na magkaparehas, not only he is sent by the Father, also he is hated by the brethren. So Jesus is hated. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. He was rejected. Jacob was rejected. Joseph was rejected also by his brothers. So marami pa dito, sold for the price of a slave. 10 pieces of silver. Si Joseph, when he was sold, he sold for price of a slave. Yung bayad sa kanya, pang bayad lang sa alipin. Kahit na maayos yung itsura niya, maayos yung damit niya, kaso kinuha ng mga kapatid niya. Ang Panginoong Jesus stripped of his garment as well. And also, binenta, he is also sold as a slave. Yung si Judas naman, yung nagbenta sa Panginoong Jesus. So binayad kay Judas ay 10 pieces of silver. Remained silent and offered no defense. Hindi nanlaban. Si Joseph, nung pinagkaisa ng mga kapatid niya, hindi siya nanlaban. Nung siya binenta, hindi siya, wala naman sinabi dito, and Joseph wrestled with his brethren and lost. Hindi. Si Joseph, binugbog lang talaga. Wala siyang laban. Unang-una, dami ng kapatid niya eh. Pero mo, 10 yung bubugbog sa'yo. So, hindi ka nalalaban kasi pag lumabang ka lang, lumabang mga delikado. Ang Panginoong Jesus naman talagang hindi nagsalita. He remained silent nung siya ay nilatigo, nung siya ay kinausap. Tawag dito, ini-scorn ng tao, hindi siya sumagot. He remained silent. Sabi yun sa verse Isaiah chapter 53 verse 7. Sabi sa Isaiah 53:7, He was oppressed and He was afflicted, yet He opened not His mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so He openeth not His mouth. 20 pieces of silver. Chapter 37 verse number 28. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. Next, respected by their jailors. Let's read Luke chapter 23 verse 47. Now when the centurion saw what was done, he glorified God, saying, Certainly this was a righteous man. So, ito yung napako na sa krus ng Panginoong Jesus. Yung mismong nagulong sa kanya, yung mismo na nagpako sa Panginoong Jesus, yung mismo na armed man na yon, siya naman yung nag-glorify sa Panginoon. Next po, both forgave their brothers. So, parehas sila nagpatawad ang Panginoong Jesus. Siyempre, sa brethren, tayo yun. Sa mga tao na hindi tumanggap sa Kanya, sa mga tao na nagkasala. Same din with Joseph as he forgave his brethren nung sila po ay nagkita na. And then lastly, both visited and honored by all earthly nations. So, ang Egypt before, it's the world power, and Joseph is the ruler. Of course, Pharaoh is higher than him, but Joseph is the one who is ruling in all the land. Kasi ang hari, binigay sa kanya yung
Prime Minister.
siya yung Prime Minister, binigay sa kanya yung authority, yung ring na mag-rule siya. That's why Joseph ruled over all the nations of the earth, kasi Egypt yung world power before. Same as with Jesus Christ, He will rule He will rule in every nation someday sa kanyang millennial reign. So, yun po ang life ni Joseph, the favored son, the faithful steward, the forgotten servant, famed statesman, forgiving saint, fruitful shade tree, and he is the foreshadow of the Savior.
So, I hope you would be reading Joseph. He was 13 years old when he started to dream. And he was 30 when he became the Prime Minister of Egypt. So, if you were Joseph, having been sold by your brethren, having been beaten by your brethren, then being sold, then you became Potiphar's assistant. Then in Potiphar's, being in Potiphar's house, you became faithful, loyal, honest, excellent. And suddenly this wife will entice you and you will reject her. And then you will be in prison. Hello, are you with me? And then you go to prison, then you became excellent again, the Lord was with you, and then you will be forgotten. It is too long. I don't know about you, but humanly speaking, when trials and problems are in our life, it seems that it is too long. Can you imagine? And then Joseph had these terrible things in his life 3 times. Not just, one is enough for everybody. They say 2 is too much. Okay? So, you were just being beaten by the people you love, your family. It's hard. Are you with me? But that's not the end. That's just the start. And then he went to Potiphar, and then he was maltreated by the wife. Another problem. Are you with me? But the Lord was with Joseph. And if you would just put yourself in Joseph's life, if we were to put ourselves in Joseph's life, it is too much. Are you with me? Of course, we know the story. That's why it's fine. But I mean, in reality, you will put yourself to that. Your brothers will punch your face, kick you, and then throw you to that place, to the pit. Why? You would rather die sometimes having that kind of family, but it is in the flesh. It seems too long in time to spend your life suffering from these problems. But you go to the bird's eye view of what happened to Joseph. From 13 years old to 30, At the age of 30, you are one of the most powerful man of earth. Can you imagine that? You see? Pag doon ka sa malapit, pag ikaw yung nagka-problema, pag ikaw si Joseph, it seems that it's too long, problem is too long, just like Job. You've been in the life of Job. Why? Why will it happen? Until when? Until when? Until when? I remember when we were under training in the church, it is as if we will just die there. I want to go out, I want to leave the church, I want to, but my pastor will tell me, wait, and then suffering, and then problems, and then and I'm always praying to the Lord, Lord, how long will I stay here? No, how long will I experience these problems and trials of life? Just like Joseph, and he had not just one, but 3 times tragic maltreatment of people. Are you with me? But the Lord was with him, that's why the favor was there. Even though he was there in the problem times, you would find God's favor so sweet that He can lift you up, He can bless you, He can feed you. But still the problems are there. Until at the age of 30, he became the Prime Minister of Egypt, the Vizier, or the assistant of Pharaoh. Are you with me? For 30 years of age, was that long? It was fast. So you see the irony, the longer you think you're in the problem, then when you go see God's favor, it's the fastest way to be blessed by God. You see that? So it is so wonderful to study the life of Joseph. I hope we can also go back. I don't think if the missionary last time taught you some things about Jacob, but I want to go back in some instances in his time. That's why I asked him to teach Joseph. I'm still not yet finished in Jacob's life, but I want you to see that in Joseph, by the way, another thing that you find, Joseph as a type of Christ, they were both sold by Judas. Judah was the one who sold him for the 20 pieces of silver. And Judah is the Hebrew word for Judas of the Greek word that is the name of Iscariot. Okay? So pareha silang naibenta ni Judas. Pareha silang nahudas. Okay? Both of them were sold by Judas. One is the Judah of the son of Leah, and the one is Judas Iscariot. Okay, but same name. Anyway, the life of Joseph is a wonderful picture and lesson of God's, number one, faithfulness. God's faithfulness. And of course, Joseph's faith as well. God's faithfulness goes along with his child's faithfulness. Are you with me? Or his child's faith. Ang katapatan ng Diyos ay laging nakadikit sa pananampalataya ng kanyang anak. And you find that in the book of Hebrews. Okay? So, kung gusto mong makakita ng katapatan ng Panginoon at saka ng magtapat ka sa Panginoon. Amen? You'll be faithful with the Lord. And then, another thing is that not just God's faithfulness or Joseph's faith, but another thing that you would really be blessed in Joseph's life is the favor of God. Yung pabor ng Diyos. The favor of God can never be limited. I'm always telling you that. The favor of God can never be limited by any situation. Whether you be in prison or in Potiphar's house or in the house with your brethren or even in the kingdom. Which of which is still God's favor? Even if you were there as a Joseph and being blessed in the in Pharaoh's kingdom, I think you also believe that the greatest favor that Joseph had in Pharaoh's house was his brother, his family. I'm not sure with the others who saw him, but surely with Benjamin and with Jacob. Ang pabor ng Panginoon, kasi you might have the kingdom of Egypt and yet God knows your heart and you know your heart. Sometimes it's not just money that will make you happy. Okay? But the favor of God is beyond just material things. Can you imagine after being sold, you will find your brothers coming there, remembering your dream that they will all bow down to you? And sometimes we would forget it. Are you with me now? Sometimes we would forget God's promise until we have it again. Just try to imagine Joseph in that situation where his brothers are falling in love, looking at him. What? The people who sold me, that's the one who punched me, that's the one who kicked me, that's the one, and here they come. Just the same as my dream. They were all kneeling down to me. Are you with me now? Hello? God's promise is just perfect time. Just perfect on time. The favor of the Lord is so sweet. And if there is something that a man or a child of God should ever dream of, dream to get God's favor. There is nothing more in this life than the favor of the Almighty. Because the favor of the Almighty is unlimited. It is as powerful as His name. Okay? And last, of course, I want you to see that as well. I was blessed in Joseph's forgiveness. You see, his life is a lesson of forgiveness. It is too hard to forgive and forget. To think about the many things that has happened to his life. But at the end of the day, Joseph, knowing the will of God, learned how to forgive. What happened, he said, you did it for my mischief and unfortune, but God made it to happen to save much people alive. You just thank God for that. Just like what happened to Job. Are you with me? Hello? After the debates with his friends that rebuked him without knowledge, Job forgave them and trusted God. And God gave him the favor. Are you with me now? So 3 things I've learned in Joseph's life. His faith, God's faithfulness, God's favor, and forgiveness. Amen? So I hope we learned in Joseph's life today